Today we're going to be looking at finding your narrative, specifically in terms of streaming and video content creation as a creator, be it a Twitch streamer, YouTuber, TikToker. Hopefully open up your perspective a bit more on your approach to content creation. Real quick general housekeeping. Everyone is a teacher and everyone is a student. Everyone has something they can learn from someone else or teach someone else. And I think that's a very healthy mindset to have as you approach content creation. You start to learn that you can take inspiration and you can learn from people regardless of what type of content they make, what niche it's in, the quality of the content, the amount of views they have. There's always something you can take away from someone else's content, and there's always something someone can take away from your content. That being said, there are always going to be exceptions. There's always going to be outliers. However, as creators, I feel that it's in our best interest to set ourselves up for achieving whatever goals it is we want. We want the highest chances of success. So we want to hopefully by the end of this be able to create unique narratives for your content, understand how narratives can help make engaging videos from stream content, identify and find what works in video content, and be able to understand the balance between story, emotion, and rhythm when creating videos. What are narratives? Narratives is the what and storytelling is the how. What is being told and how it's being told. But as content creators, you'll hear these terms be used synonymously. Some people will say storytelling, some people will say narratives. I like to use the term journey or transfer of value as a better example, because when we say storytelling, people tend to think of a fairy tale like once upon a time in a land far away, right? That's not what we mean. While people do stick to the conventional sort of high school level of story where you have, a build up, you have a climax, you have a resolution, that's not what we mean here. What we mean is throughout your video, you want to be taking your viewers through a journey from the start to the end where you're providing value to them. Now, this value can come in, I say 3 E's. There's much more to it, but this is my 3 umbrellas that I feel content will fall under. Either it will be education, entertainment, or engagement. Now, you can have videos that sort of fluctuate between all 3 of these, maybe 2 of these. There might be other terms as well that you could use, but for the most part, with entertainment content, from the start to the end of the video, you're taking people through a journey that entertains them. By the time they've finished watching, they should be entertained and they should feel some sort of satisfaction. With education content, it could be transferring knowledge from the start to end. It could be transferring awareness for a scenario or something going on, like with Loco's content, where it's a lot of news and streamer news related stuff, providing you education from the start to end, where it's bringing awareness regarding some hot topics. And engagement could be having people trying to engage with some sort of action. So again, I feel that content falls under somewhere within all 3 of these. The lines aren't hard set, they're very blurred. And there might be other terms that you can think of that also apply. This is the way I sort of conceptualize content going into it to help sort of keep an idea of where I want to go, where I want to be with the content. It's very important to always have a focus and be very clear on what your content is aiming to achieve so that you can bring the best narrative out of it. How do we do this in terms of streaming? So I have a mantra for extracting engaging video content from live streams, and it's themes for streams. It's catchy, it sticks. This isn't something you need to stick to for your entire stream. You don't have to spend 5, 6, 7 hours sticking to one specific theme, but rather it's something that you refer back to. It's a consistent factor that you keep coming back to throughout your stream to keep it engaging, to keep it relevant, to give it some sort of general direction, which you can then use to extract a story or a narrative from. Ludwig is a prime example, and we're going to take a look at his channel real quick to show why. If we go through Ludwig's channel and we look through his live streams, he'll have different segments throughout his stream where he does different things, and all of those things then get repurposed into YouTube videos. Recently, he went on a motorbike trip through Japan with Michael Reeves, and they did Michael Made Me Camp. We made it, almost crashed, so we hitchhiked. Several videos from just several streams. They stream a content and then they'll make a video out of it. But it's not just videos for the sake of videos, and it's not just streaming for the sake of streaming. They have a narrative, they have a goal, they have an objective, and their videos can then rely on that objective to make it more engaging, to make it feel more collected, more planned, and more cohesive, rather than just being something thrown together like a bunch of Twitch highlights or a bunch of gameplay. Ludwig does this a lot, and I think he really revolutionized live streaming in this regard. The key thing is he's actively aware when he's making these live streams. When he goes into these live streams, he is aware that he wants to spend time in these live streams creating YouTube content. So you'll notice he doesn't read chat messages word for word. He won't mention usernames. And sure, while that can disengage with some viewers, for the most part, because he has so many viewers already and his chat's always scrolling past, people don't expect that of him. If you're live streaming and you're talking to chat and you start mentioning usernames in chat and you start reading out comments, when you go to edit, you'll find that a lot of the time, if those moments come up in those videos, you're gonna have to try and cut around them to try and keep the immersion. Because as soon as someone's watching a YouTube video and you say, hey chat, or hey XYZ in chat, how are you doing today? It's going to disengage the viewer. They feel like the third wheel in an engagement that's already happened. But when you're going into these themes, you wanna try and make sure that there's moments, yes, where you're engaging with your chat actively, but also you want to litter in moments that you can then pick up in the edit to use for actual videos, which won't break the immersion with your viewer on your video content on YouTube afterwards. Themes refer to anything that sort of gives you an overarching objective throughout these videos. So how does this apply to gaming content? It can be things like handicaps, challenges, objectives. If you're playing Fortnite, maybe you're trying to reach a certain amount of kills only using a certain weapon. Perhaps you're not allowed to use any shields. Perhaps you're not allowed to build, or you can only build one type of wall. If you're playing Minecraft, maybe you're limited to only using golden tools. Perhaps you're not allowed to enchant anything. These sort of themes add some uniqueness to your content, and the only limit to them is your own creativity. And that's what will set you apart much more easily than being really good at a game or having a very unique personality. How do narratives help? Your content should aim to take viewers through a journey from start to end, as we discussed, a journey where value is being provided from the start to end. This transfer of value is what keeps people watching your video from the moment they click onto it to the moment it ends. The better the transfer of value and the more appeal that value has, the better the video will perform. So these journeys help viewers feel like the video is worth watching, and it helps keep them engaged throughout it. How do we know it helps keep people engaged? Well, it comes down to the 3 T's of YouTube content. Journeys provide a clear topic. The other 2 are thumbnail and title. These 3 elements should always be aligned. If they're not aligned with each other, people will feel clickbaited or lose interest. What do we mean by this? When someone sees your title and thumbnail, you're promising them that there's value to watch this video based on whatever that thumbnail is, whatever that title is. It'll have certain emotions to it based on the colors you use, based on the text you use, based on what it depicts. You're giving people an expectation. Click on this video, this is what you'll see. If you don't deliver on that, people will feel clickbaited, people will view the video negatively, and they won't be satisfied. At the end of the day, if you walk into a steakhouse, you want a steak. If they serve you something else, you're not going to feel like you've been fulfilled on why you went there. Content is the same. The topic, thumbnail, and title should align. This doesn't mean that the thumbnail and title should have the exact same words and copy each other word for word. No, they can support each other while still hinting to the same topic, while still evoking the same emotions, the same feelings based on their visuals. The main thing is all 3 should support each other. The topic of the video, the thumbnail, and the title. How do we find what will work and what won't work? It's really a 1-sentence, 3-word answer. It's watch more content. There's a bit more to it than just watch more content. Watch content within and outside of your niche. Because again, you can draw inspiration from anywhere. Watch content you enjoy to find the style that resonates with you best so you can start to replicate it. But also, watch content you don't enjoy. Watch content you don't like but is popular. Because those people are doing something which is clearly working. And by watching them, you can take notes on what is working, and then you can apply it with your own style and your own vibe, and present it in a way that you do enjoy. Because if you don't enjoy someone else's content, but it's popular, odds are there are other people out there that also like the value that that content's providing, but don't enjoy the way it's presented, don't enjoy the style it was edited in. There's always space to carve out your own audience. But how do you know what works? Well, you have to watch with intention. It's all fine and well watching someone do something, but if you don't understand what you're meant to look for, it's hard to learn from it. So by highlighting these sort of different narratives, hopefully now you can go off in your own time and watch different content from different content creators within and outside of your niche to find those narratives. And now you'll be able to notice them a bit more, hopefully, that, hey, this is the narrative that this person has gone with. But once you find these narratives, how do you actually execute on them? How do you actually implement this from a stream to a video? A lot of people fall into a common pitfall trap. They stream their entire content, maybe they do a playthrough, they do a let's play of something, and they upload the entire VOD, or 30, 40, 50 minutes worth of content. And they believe that people will watch through it all. People will watch the first 5 minutes, they get bored because it feels repetitive, so they click off. So what you want to do is focus on editing to highlight one of the 3 key ingredients of a good video: story, emotion, and rhythm. So story in terms of this ingredient means editing with a focus to highlight the progression of that narrative. If you never focus on progressing the story while you edit, people will feel like they're stagnating. We're in the same spot that we were in this journey from the start of the video. 5 minutes down the line, 10 minutes down the line, 15 minutes down the line, there's been no development. So when you're editing to highlight story, you're editing to highlight progression on this narrative. Emotion refers to evoking certain feelings for deeper emotional connection with your viewers. Let's say you're playing a game like Elden Ring and you keep failing against a certain boss. You may want to focus on the emotional aspect of this, of finally beating the boss. You can slow down the edit, you can focus more on your emotions, how you felt in those moments, to create a deeper connection between you and your viewer, which keeps them engaged. So we go from focusing on the story, focusing on the progression of the narrative, to then also focusing on highlighting how you feel and how you want the viewer to feel. Editing for emotion refers to how you feel and conveying that through the edit, but also conveying it through in a way where your viewer can also feel it. You want them to be a part of the feeling. You don't want them to just be a spectator, you want them to be a part of the story. And then rhythm. Rhythm refers to the pacing of the edit. So this could be to emphasize the passage of time. For example, the Rocky training montage. It condenses a huge passage of time in a very short viewing experience. But you can also do the opposite. You can slow things down to highlight the depth of a specific moment. You can have longer cuts. You can leave breaths in at certain moments, which goes against retention editing techniques, to help focus on the fact that you're slowing things down. This moment matters. Or again, it can be a really fast-paced cut to make a really fast progression. So you want to always make sure that you're focusing on one of these three elements while editing: story, emotion, or rhythm. They're three different points of the editing triangle. These are the words of Hayden Hillier-Smith. Another thing he also says is kill your darlings. Sometimes in video content, you'll have moments where you're really proud of. You make a fancy motion graphic that you really enjoy, or there was a certain moment in stream that you personally really enjoyed rewatching, but sometimes it doesn't progress the story, it doesn't evoke any emotion, and it doesn't add to the rhythm or pacing of the video. And in those moments, you cut out the moment that's so dear to you because you know at the end of the day, it's not actually providing the value to the viewers. If you find that neither of these three elements are the priority, that moment is probably not actually helping your video's narrative. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it was insightful. If you do have any questions, I am on the Discord server, so feel free to ask whenever. Hopefully in the future we can run another workshop where we focus more on editing techniques, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do with this new information.